My son Derek hadn't answered his phone in 2 weeks. 2 full weeks. That's not like him. So I did what any mother would do. I drove to his house in a quiet suburb just outside of Chicago, unannounced. But when I got there, I noticed something moving under my grandson's bed. When the police lifted the mattress, what we found left everyone frozen in shock. If you're watching this, I need you to hit that like button and subscribe. Honestly, if you can just watch a story like this and scroll away, I don't know what to say. For those of you who have a heart, tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story from. I want to know how far it's reached. I still remember it perfectly. On that fateful day, I took the first Greyhound heading into the city. During the 3-hour ride, I didn't say a word. My eyes were glued to the window, my heart tied in a knot. I told myself to calm down, but my hands trembled as I clutched the ticket. When I got off at the main terminal, it was already getting dark. I walked quickly toward the gated community where Derek lived, down the same path I had walked dozens of times to visit him and George, my grandson. But this time, every step felt heavy, like I was walking straight into a nightmare. Standing in front of that familiar wooden door, I knocked, first gently, then with more and more force. "Derek! George!" I shouted, but my voice broke in the cold air. No one answered. I put my hand on the doorknob, just to try my luck, but when I turned it, the door creaked open. It was unlocked. My heart started pounding a mile a minute. Derek never left the door unlocked. He was always so careful, especially when George was home. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, holding my breath. The scene I saw left me frozen. The living room was a wreck, like there had been a fight. The sofa was shoved out of place. On the floor, a coffee mug was shattered into 1,000 pieces, the white shards mixed with a dark, dried coffee stain. I stepped over it, my legs trembling. In the kitchen, the water cooler jug was tipped on its side, and empty water bottles were rolling on the floor, uncapped, as if someone had chugged them down in desperation. The smell of dampness and the dead silence of the house sent a chill down my spine. Before I tell you what I found upstairs, I have to ask, have you ever had a gut feeling that something was terribly wrong? If you know that sinking feeling in your stomach, subscribe right now. Don't even think about it. If you don't subscribe, maybe you've never felt true fear. Go ahead and tell us in the comments why you're not scared. I went upstairs, feeling like I was dragging a stone with every step. I checked Derek's home office. Empty. His bedroom empty too. The bed was still made, but with no sign of life. Finally, I reached George's room. "George, where are you, sweetie?" I called out, my voice hoarse. Silence. I stood in the middle of the room, looking at his toys, the Legos, his old teddy bear, and I felt like my heart was going to break. Suddenly, a small noise came from under the bed, a scraping sound like a plastic bottle rolling on the hardwood floor. I froze. There was something under the bed. I wanted to look, but my feet felt glued to the floor. "George?" I called out again. Only silence answered me. Panic took over. I ran out of the house, my hands shaking so badly I fumbled my phone 3 times just trying to dial 911. "My son is missing. I haven't heard from him in 2 weeks," I screamed into the phone. "There's a strange noise under my grandson's bed." In less than 10 minutes, the red and blue lights of a squad car lit up the windows. I led 2 officers to George's room, and with a shaky finger I pointed at the bed. "Under there," I whispered. A young, tall officer knelt down. "Is anyone under there?" he called out in a firm voice. A heavy silence filled the room. Then, without another word, the 2 officers lifted the bed in one motion. And there I saw him. It was George, my grandson, curled up underneath. He was so thin, his hair matted with sweat, his clothes filthy. He was clutching an empty water bottle, his eyes wide open and completely blank, as if he were looking into a world I couldn't reach. I stood there, paralyzed. The officers were in shock, unable to say a word. I fell to my knees. "George, my boy," I whispered, tears welling up. He didn't respond. He just stayed there, clinging to that bottle like it was the last thing keeping him alive. I didn't know what had happened, but I knew this nightmare was just beginning. I'm Olivia. I'm 61 years old. Now I'm sitting in the dim light of a hospital room. The doctors and nurses rushed George into the ER. I stayed outside, my hands pressed against the glass, watching them. The words I heard were like daggers. No external injuries, severe malnutrition, severe dehydration, signs of psychological trauma. Watching my grandson like this, a shell of the happy boy he was, it broke me. If you believe no child should ever go through something like this, prove it. Subscribe to this channel to show you stand for justice. If you won't, then I guess some people just don't care. Let me know in the comments if that's you. For 2 days, I didn't move from his bedside. He had terrible nightmares, waking up with his mouth open in a silent scream. A psychologist came, a kind woman with a sweet voice. She asked him gentle questions, but George just hugged his teddy bear tighter and said nothing. On the morning of the 3rd day, my phone rang. It was the police precinct. The detective's voice was grave. "Mrs. Olivia, I need you to prepare yourself. We just used luminol at Mr. Derek's house. We found a very large amount of blood in the living room. It's very likely we're dealing with a homicide." My world went silent. The washcloth in my hand fell to the floor. Then George, my grandson, tugged hard on my sleeve. His eyes were filled with tears, and after so many days of silence, he burst into a heartbreaking cry. "Dad, he's dead!" he screamed, his voice weak but full of pain. The police came to the hospital immediately. A young officer sat by the bed. "George," he said softly, "can you tell us and your grandma what happened?" What he said next shattered my world into a million pieces. If you're not subscribed yet, you're about to hear why you should be. This is the kind of evil that hides in plain sight, and by subscribing, you join a community that refuses to look away. Those who can't handle the truth can just leave a comment explaining their weakness. George began, his voice a trembling whisper. That night, it was raining really hard. The doorbell rang, a lot. Dad looked through the peephole and his face got tense. He ran to me and whispered, "George, get under the bed, quick, don't come out until I call for you." I got under the bed and Dad pulled the comforter down to hide me. Through a little gap, I saw my mum come in with a very tall man. The man's face was cold. My heart stopped. Sophia, Derek's ex-wife. She was a good girl once. The whole family loved her. But then, she got into gambling, badly. Derek sold his car to pay her debts. I used my life savings to pay off loan sharks who came to my door. She changed, became irritable, cruel. She'd scream at George for spilling a glass of milk. Derek finally divorced her and got full custody to protect their son. We thought the nightmare was over. George continued, trembling. My mom asked, "Where is George?" Dad lied and told her I was at your house for winter break. Then she started yelling at him, asking for money. She said something about a debt that Dad had to pay if he didn't want trouble, but Dad said no. Then they started fighting. The tall man, Robert, he pushed my dad. He pushed him harder. Dad fell and hit his head on the corner of the coffee table. There was a loud thud, and red water started coming out. George burst into tears again. I saw Dad lying there, not moving. I wanted to come out. I was so scared. I held him, my own tears soaking his hair. The police now had their witness. The investigation kicked into high gear. A neighbour's security camera caught a suspicious truck in front of Derek's house on the night of the storm. In the back, something long was covered with a tarp. The model matched one used by a local loan shark gang. We went to Sophia's last known address, a rundown apartment building. The landlady told us she'd left in a hurry 2 weeks ago, right when Derek disappeared. Paid up and took off with a huge suitcase, she said. That's when I remembered it. A life insurance policy Derek had taken out years ago. He never changed the beneficiary after the divorce. The sole beneficiary was Sophia. That was the motive. The police found the policy in Derek's desk. If Derek died, Sophia would get everything, enough to pay her debts and disappear. The next call was the one I'd been dreading. Mrs. Olivia, we found a body in an abandoned frozen goods warehouse. We suspect it's Mr. Derek. Identifying my son at the morgue was the hardest thing I've ever done. The medical examiner confirmed it. Death by traumatic brain injury from a strong blow. It happened the night of the storm. The police found the truck. Inside, they found a blanket with Derek's blood on it and a woman's jacket. The DNA on the jacket belonged to Sophia. They arrested her accomplice, Robert, who confessed everything to get a deal. He told them where Sophia was hiding. They caught her at a copy shop, trying to forge documents to flee the country. The trial was a media circus. I sat in the front row, holding George's hand. The prosecutor laid out the evidence. George's recorded statement, the security footage of the truck, the DNA on the blanket and jacket, and finally, the life insurance policy. At first, Sophia was calm, but as the evidence mounted, she snapped. "I didn't mean to kill him," she screamed. "I just wanted my money." Then she pointed at Robert. "It was him. He pushed Derek." Robert shot back. "You planned everything. You told me to push him, to help you hide the body." They turned on each other, sealing their fates. The judge's voice was firm. The defendant, Sophia, is found guilty of first-degree murder and fraud. She is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The accomplice, Robert, is sentenced to 20 years. I broke down, hugging George. Justice was served, but the scars will never fade. We have to protect the people we love. If you made it this far, you're part of this family now. Hit subscribe and become a voice for the voiceless. And for those few who still haven't, I have to wonder what's stopping you. Drop a comment and tell me why you'd abandon a family that needs you. I took George to live with me in my small town. He's in therapy and slowly, very slowly, he's starting to heal. That night, as he slept in my arms, I looked up at the sky and whispered, "Derek, my son, I promise I will raise and protect George for you. Justice has been served." Loss has taught me to value every single second with family, because ambition and betrayal can turn your loved ones into strangers. But justice will always speak if you are persistent until the end.